Hey everyone, welcome back to LA Storytime. I am just so tickled, thrilled, happy, and grateful that you all are loving the show. We're on episode 4 now, and I just wanted to start off by thanking you all for all the wonderful feedback. Oh, I could just not be more tickled. So I really want to put a lot of thought into what I'm putting out for you guys and making sure that you really get something out of every single episode. And today we're going to be a little bit more topical, I think, than historical. You know, been having tons of fun looking back on some of my experiences on the red carpet and in the entertainment industry. And today, what we're going to talk about is dance moms. And still my experience on the red carpet with the dance moms and all of that. But, you know, I think when you're talking about children in the entertainment industry, there are just so many little nuances to cover, right? And the dance moms have been everywhere this week because the moms and the girls did a big reunion. And it just really got me thinking, looking back at some of my old videos and remembering the almost weird experience that it was to cover this show, to interview the stars. I also was involved in an after show for Dance Moms where we would sit down and discuss every episode after it aired. So I was just really a part of not just reporting on the show, but really being a spectator to the fandom, right? The craziness, the protectiveness, I think that some of the fans felt over the dancers, some of the negativity that came along with Abby Lee Miller and the way that she taught the girls. There just is so much to discuss here. And there was a lot of discussion about it back in the day. The show premiered in 2011. And of course, that was kind of the time when everything was heating up in Hollywood. There was a lot of entertainment coverage, and just people were getting really rabid about getting the real story. You know, reality TV was getting really hot and more, I think, kind of complicated and maybe more shocking than ever in this period of time. So to have this show come on that sort of seemed like, oh, dance moms, these are really little girls, and this is going to be a nice, fun, cute show for people who enjoy dance, right? That is so not what the show ended up being. It is so not why people enjoyed the show. I think the dancing had very little to actually do with it. And I don't think it's the reason why anyone is still so interested now in 2024 in seeing what the girls are doing and their moms and having a whole reunion that makes a huge splash. I love the show and had been watching it since the first or second season, I think, because I danced growing up and I was just interested. I just thought it was fun to see these girls who took it so much more seriously than I did. We definitely didn't have any dance moms types in New Ulm, Minnesota, where I was from. No one was taking it that seriously. But so I was just so incredibly fascinated by what I saw as a future being created for these young girls on reality TV and in dance. So I love the show. And this was right around the time, too, when I first started Christy Reports, when Dance Moms started to air. So I was out there on the red carpet. I had my blog back then, and I was doing a little bit of reporting, a little bit of editorial stuff. And I remember running into, for the first time ever, a few of the girls at a small red carpet event. It was Paige and Brooke and little Asia, too, if you remember. In my interview with Asia, I am kneeling on the ground. She must be probably 6 years old at this point or something. And even Paige and Brooke, you know, who are adults now. Brooke just got engaged, actually. She's well into her 20s. And they were just so tiny then. I love looking back at these interviews. You can go and check them out on my YouTube page because that was an experience that was new for me. You know, I was used to going out there and harassing Lisa Vanderpump, all the Real Housewives, the Vanderpump crew. The stars of Pretty Little Liars were big on my radar back then. So I was used to going after the hot adult stars that you could really ask these juicy questions of, right? I've talked about the 1-2 punch before where you get them a soft question, then hit them really hard and get the scoop. I was obsessed with doing that and I loved that. But when you're talking to little girls, that is not appropriate. Of course, and I do that. So this was a new experience for me, kind of crouching down and thinking really quickly on the red carpet, like, oh man, this is a show that focuses so much on these little girls, but it's called Dance Moms. So essentially, they're trying to fool us and make us think it's about the moms. Which I think is just a way that Lifetime kind of used to make it all seem appropriate, right? It's like, no, we're not talking about 6-year-olds. We're talking about grown women. They were not. That wasn't it. But so to kind of look these little girls in the eye and say, what can I ask them that will be cute and fun and entertaining for people who love them on the show, but that is also appropriate, that isn't about the drama, that isn't about their moms, and that isn't going to make their moms angry with me. Of course, at this particular first event, none of the moms were anywhere really in sight. I assume maybe the girls came with an agent, or mom was probably standing a little off to the side. It was kind of a hectic environment there, from what I remember. But I just asked the girls, I started with, does their mom's behavior embarrass them? Because I think that's a great way to get them to look at it from the kid's point of view, right? I'm not just going to go out and go, oh my God, your mom yelled at Abby in public. You must have been shocked. You must have been horrified. Does she yell at you in public? No, that would be so inappropriate. Okay, that would be really juicy. But I think to ask them if they're embarrassed, I got a really cute reaction from them. And then the rest of my questions were kind of in the same vein, asking them what they expected for the future and about their friendships with each other and with the other girls, which is always, I found, the great number one juicy question to get the girls and their moms talking, was about the relationships between them. So at that particular event, that was a lot of fun, and I was happy with what I got. It got big traction on YouTube. So the show had maybe been on for 2 or 3 seasons at this point, and the fans were starting to get really, really obsessed. And I learned that from how well that interview did. This was also a time when people were starting to look at the show, kind of not through that cutesy lens anymore of this is a fun show about little dance girls, but people were really starting to criticize Abby Lee Miller, her training tactics, making the girls cry. There was a lot of talk that was starting about that after the show had been on for a while. And this is the part where I learned my lessons. This is the part why we're sitting down and talking here, is so that I can look back and go, maybe I was wrong. And here's would have been a little more appropriate. So back then I defended Abby Lee to the hilt, right? I mean, on the after shows that we did, to anybody that I talked to on the red carpet, my stance was always, they are so lucky to be in this position. The girls are, to be on reality TV, to be training with Abby Lee Miller, someone who can and will make them a star, and is. Abby Lee Miller was making these girls huge stars because she was such a great reality TV personality, right? I mean, they all could have gotten their reality show. It could have gone one season. It could have been, look at how cute these girls are. Look at how great they dance. And look what a wonderful teacher Abby Lee Miller is. That would have been a really forgettable but beautiful to watch, 8 episodes of one season of a show. That was not going to last. And so Abby Lee, and the way that she was so smart, she knew exactly what she was doing. I don't know, if what we saw on camera is the way that she runs her studio day to day and the way that she talks to and trains kids every single day, but it was probably close. And also, being someone in the entertainment industry at this time, I was in my 20s, I was trying hard. I remember thinking to myself, I wish someone would have put a camera on me when I was 6. I wish I would have had that jump start. I wish I would have had that pressure. I wish I would have had that training, My parents are really nice and supportive and always told me that I was doing a good job. What if someone would have yelled at me, So I was kind of coming from this standpoint of the girls can take it. Their moms are there to protect them. This makes great television, and they're all making tons of money. They're all going to be huge stars. And, technically I was right, but I think for the girls, we can ask them now if they feel like they've come away unscathed or not. You can watch the reunion and make your own decisions about that. But so as people kind of started, it felt like the fans started to turn a little bit on Abby. And I had an awesome opportunity at this point. I think it was in 2014. I ran into, on the red carpet, someone who would give me my biggest YouTube video of all time. This, to this day, is my most played video. It has almost 300,000 views, and it is someone whose name you would never recognize. Someone you haven't seen before and haven't seen since, unless you look really closely at a Katy Perry or a Beyonce music video from back in the day. And I'm sorry, that sounded disparaging. She was an incredibly successful dancer, and I'm sure is doing a lot of things that she's proud of right now. but she was not on the Dance Mom show. She was all grown up by this point. And I started talking to her because she was in just some little movie. We're at like a little dark red carpet, for some film that was independently released and that no one was ever going to hear about. And I start talking to one of the stars, Allie. Hey Allie, how'd you get your start? How did you end up in this movie? And she says, well, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Dance Moms. You can see my eyes in the video light all the way up, huge. I look at the camera and I guess I just felt it in this moment that this was going to be gold. So she starts to say, I grew up as a dancer. I went to Abby Lee Miller as a child, and I freak out because I think this is finally my opportunity to talk to somebody who was there when the cameras weren't on, someone who trained with Abby Lee Miller their entire life and who has an actual career now in the entertainment industry in dance. She was on tour with huge pop stars and again in the music videos and live performances, and she was starring in this small film. This was finally my opportunity to talk to someone who could prove, kind of the point that I always made about Abby and the girls, and that this is all a good thing, right? They're gonna be fine because they're gonna be great. They're gonna be walking a red carpet in 15 years thanking Abby Lee Miller. And that's pretty much what this girl, her name is Allie. That's pretty much what she did on this red carpet. She said, I owe absolutely everything to Abby. She talked about even when she wasn't as young and she wasn't training with Abby anymore, she went off to New York and Abby helped her get, her work there and helped her get set up and always checked in with her. I think if you've read Abby Lee's book, actually, there's an entire chapter, I think Allie said, on her and her success and how Abby helped her. So this was just the absolute jackpot of an interview because I knew that people were going to be so interested in what this girl had to say, having been in the position that, Maddie and Mackenzie and all of them were in at that time that was being so scrutinized. So I knew people were going to really want to hear from her. And also, again, it just kind of it made me feel like, okay, I'm okay. I'm right. All this stuff I'm pushing, that it's fine how Abby's treating them, and let's get out there on the red carpet and ask them every question and squeeze every last little bit of juice out of this show. I'm right. It's okay. Look at this girl. She's doing just fine. So I have to say that really fueled me. And also the fact that the video did get so much attention. I really stayed on the Dance Moms beat. And the show just continued to skyrocket, with the careers right around this time. So I'm going to go into 2015 event next. Maddie was just starting to do, I think she had just done her first Sia music video. And she was just kind of starting to break away from Dance Moms or try to separate herself. I think it's probably around the time when she got like a real team of people that weren't related to the show. And they were starting to protect Maddie a little bit. So the tide was starting to turn a little. And I ran into the entire cast at the 2015 Reality TV Awards. You can pull up the interview or not, because kind of a sidebar and something that I'm sure will come up on this show all the time. And the only thing that will probably ever bring me to tears or make me cry when I talk about my past and red carpet interviews is having sound issues. You can have 3 backup microphones and the backup cords and everything and be ready, and it can work 100 million times. And then when it's time to get that gold interview, things don't always pan out. So the audio from this event, if you go back and watch the videos, is not great, but you can still hear and see everybody. And I remember exactly what went down that day because, again, it was so telling of the show and where everyone was at this time. Jojo Siwa had also joined the cast, and she and her mother walked the red carpet alone. Together, but without the rest of the cast. And if you remember back then, Jojo and her mom were really separated. There was a lot of like, oh, is Jojo even going to be on the team? And we have her, we got rid of her, we brought her back. They really jacked her around. But her mom, I think, was really smart in, having her go back. And I remember watching the show and thinking that, like, ooh, like her mom knows Jojo's mom knows exactly what she's doing. And so on this red carpet, I remember feeling like Jojo's mom is protective of her, is genuinely here to make sure that JoJo's experience is okay, that everyone acts appropriately with her. And, JoJo's mom is here for JoJo. I got the same feeling from Nia and her mother, Holly, who also walked the red carpet separate from the rest of the cast, who also were very alienated from the rest of the cast at this time. And what I love when you watch that interview is that Nia really kind of looks to her mom. And in that situation, the appropriate thing is to really direct the questions to both of them. But if you're really trying to get something that's juicy, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit more to her mom. So you can really see in the footage, Nia's kind of, looking to her mom, letting her mom lead. And her mom is really taking control of the interview that I did with her. And I have so much respect for that. It was a little bit different with Maddie's mom. So Maddie did not walk the red carpet at this event. The entire rest of the cast was there. And I don't know if she was even there, but she didn't walk the carpet, didn't speak to anyone. And again, this was the time when they were getting really protective of Maddie. I bet she wasn't even there, to be honest with you. There'd been no reason for her to be if she wasn't going to make an appearance. But the interview that I had with Maddie's mom, her and my kind of impression with her after speaking with her was that she's in over her head a little bit. She was really, the way that she spoke about Maddie at this time, again, was very like, we're above dance moms. Maddie has graduated from this and she is moving on. She would go on to do the show for a few more seasons after this. But the impression thing was really like, oh, we've moved on from that. You can definitely tell when you look back at the show, and again, talking about just the moms and what I observed from them in real time. Some of the moms really wanted to be stars too. And that's okay. The show was called Dance Moms. And I can only imagine, if you listen to my episode about my experience getting cast on the Saddle Ranch reality show, that was the last episode. I know that who knows how the show was pitched to them, right? Maybe they were told it's going to be all about the moms. There's not even going to be any cameras in the training. We're just on you guys watching. And maybe they told them that they would be following them and they realized, who knows? But anyway, the moms were, under the impression, some of them, shows about them, and that they were cool getting attention for themselves and promoting themselves too. That, again, is totally okay. No judgment here. When Nia and Holly came down the carpet and I said Holly took kind of control of the interview, Holly still had, I think she's a principal or something, or was back in the day. She was not directing the questions to being about her or talking about herself. Someone like a Jill, Kendall's mom, she's fun and she's hot and she, is just as comfortable talking about herself as she is talking about her daughter and getting in front of the camera and getting in these red carpet interviews. And so Jill and Abby and a couple of the other girls all walked down together. And again, the sound is terrible in this darn interview, but I asked them so many great questions. Even when I look back now, I'm like, oh, this is good stuff for the future. And they answered them all, very eagerly. It's great. I asked Abby about, contract negotiations and kind of some fun stuff with all the girls just all standing there together. And again, Jill really getting in on it too. And they were all super likable too in real time. You see a mom and a daughter walking a red carpet together, and there are these girls that the world is making such a huge deal out of. There's so much conversation about them. And here they are right in front of you, just, 3 feet tall in a cute little dress. And it was just a lot of fun. And this is what always happens, you guys too. I'm talking about Abby Lee Miller. She is such a good reality star, not just because of what she does on camera, but what she's always done off camera, fanning the flames, right? Fueling any reports and defending herself. She has always been good at keeping the conversation going and keeping the conversation on Dance Moms. And that's what makes her a great reality star. That's what keeps the show hot. That's what keeps people talking about her. Abby also is always willing to play around with me, not just at a Hollywood event, but I remember emailing her people or her directly a couple times, reaching out to her via DM and saying, hey, can you answer this question? Can we do this live interview? There was a few things we were going to do here and there and did over time with Abby. So that was another part of the reason why I was such a stan for her, was because she was cool with me. And when I'd see her on the red carpet, she seemed likable and fun. And, we're talking about this cutesy dance show. And she was so good at, answering my questions, but making it intriguing. And it would always be an interview with her that people would want to watch and that people would talk about. So I really appreciated that. And that was part of the reason why, I always liked her in person and always thought like, hey, this is all cool. This is all good. This woman's nice to me. But of course, you can also say that Abby was very hard on the girls, whether it was for the cameras or not, and whether she was making them into a star or not. There were a lot of people who disapproved of Abby and her behavior, and that's not something that has changed, since 2015. And I think that she's someone who has been pretty much canceled at this point. If you don't know what she said on Sophia Franklin's podcast a few months ago, you should definitely go and look it up, whether you're a fan of hers or not, so that you know kind of what we're working with current time with Abby Lee Miller. But I'm sure you know what we're working with right now as far as all the other girls go. It was just so fascinating to watch them really grow up and grow up in this time when, again, the narrative was sort of changing, right? We were all into reality TV, as scandalous as it could be in 2011 when the show premiered. But by, 2015, 2016, we're a little bit more aware as a society. What are things like social media and comments and YouTube? What are these things doing to people, and especially our youth, and maybe youth that are on TV or that are involved in all of this? So it was fascinating to be part of that. And I think, again, another reason why it's so important for me to look back on these experiences. I remember also running into Mackenzie on the red carpet. This was a few years later. So she was a grown-up lady at this point. She was probably like, yeah, maybe 17, 18, and she was putting out new music that she was excited about. And it was just so crazy how things had changed so much from, 2015 and being at these huge events with everyone trying to scrambling to talk to them. And then I think after, when the show initially ended, I think things got a little quiet for the girls, the ones who wanted it to be quiet for them, right? And Mackenzie was such a star, and so much had been made of her music career that at this time in 2019, she was, I think, really trying to find her, new adult, I'm not a little girl anymore kind of sound and image. She was so laid back, and I just asked her, isn't it so annoying that people say to you, oh, you're so grown up now, and what do we do with you? And she said, yeah, but she also was so game to talk about everything from Dance Moms. I was really surprised that Mackenzie wasn't more negative, just from having the experience again with Christy and Maddie, how Maddie was so protected and really kind of taken out of the situation, how negatively Christy and some of the other Dance Moms have talked about Abby and the girls' experiences. I was really surprised to hear Mackenzie kind of go like, "Oh, the show is back, and that's great." That was when it had gotten picked up again, and Cheryl Burke, I believe, was doing it. That was then, And I even asked her if she would ever be willing to do reality TV again, and she said she was down. So it's just interesting, kind of how things ebb and flow and change. A year later, I did a YouTube video that was like Dance Mom updates, and again, it sort of seemed at that time like, wait a minute. Remember those girls we were all obsessed with? Where did they all go? What happened to them all? Wait, they're grown up? Wait, they're in college? They have boyfriends? They have girlfriends? OMG. So that was a fun and one of my biggest videos to date too, which I keep saying that not to brag, because again, none of these videos really did that great anyway. But in saying of my awareness of what people like and, what gets people's attention, what kind of content sparks a conversation, and what kind of conversations are being had about the content that I'm making, that I learned is super duper important. And like when I posted that video in 2020 of the updates, the comments that's when things were getting strange. When the girls are adults, people feel comfortable talking about them in a different way than they did when they were children. And it really made me kind of feel like, oh, ooh, I want to back off of this a little bit. Funny that it took until 2020, when there was so much negativity around this show, and even the stars saying about their experiences and having it be damaging, and us watching some of the things that happened. It really did take me that long to go, maybe there's something more dark here than light. And I'm even still kind of trying to process that a little bit. Covering the show was the first time that I ever got any negative reaction from people who were watching my content or watching me on the after show. They were saying, you're perpetuating what Abby's doing to these children. You're making it worse. You're exploiting them too. And that never occurred to me. And I still don't think I was part of, exploiting anybody or anything like that. But it just kind of makes you think about what you put out there and again, what kind of conversations it starts. So I really backed off the Dance Moms girls since then, but it really feels appropriate now to kind of look back at the progression of what happened with their show and what's happened in our society with reality TV, with entertainment news, with the way now that we would cover or talk about children or women. So it's interesting. And this has really been mind-blowing, sort of, to kind of look back and just talk it all out. There are definitely some lessons to be learned there for sure. And man, I just can't wait to pull up that reunion and watch it back and see how all the girls are doing. I will always root for all these girls forever and ever. I know people have a lot of opinions about JoJo and her. It's got to be so hard for her, having been JoJo with the Bobo, and how do you show the world that you're an adult now? I can only imagine how difficult that is for her. So you will not hear me criticize anything that any of them do. I just wish them all the best and love and light. It's cool. It's cool to see them now grown up again, getting engaged, graduating from school. A couple of them were on like their school dance team, or they've just started real lives. And I think that's something for us all to look at too and go, what was the point of all this? Right? Who got what out of Dance Moms? So if you have thoughts about this, please be part of the conversation with me, comment on this episode, or even just reach out to me. I want to know what you guys think about this stuff. And we can definitely have some deeper conversations. There is way more on this end to get into. So I want to know what's resonating with you guys, which is the correct way of using that phrase. There I go, sounding like kind of an ass again. Sorry. But thank you so much for hanging out. Remember, you can watch this on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Please leave a rating and review. That would help me out a ton. And again, I just love hearing what you guys think of the show. If you disagree with something that I've said, I freaking love it. Please tell me. Let's have a conversation. And we'll definitely be having one again next week. I'll see you right back here. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.